On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery 203, Point of Light, right after this.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name's Matthew Carroll.
And I am David C. Robertson.
Hey, Dave. What's going on, man?
Nothing, man. I just had a little fun tonight. Went and hung out with a friend of mine from another podcast, Suicide Squadcast. They talk about DC stuff. And looked at his man cave, hung out there, and then went to Second and Charles for a little bit and came home.
That's awesome, man. That sounds like a fun night. I've had a long night of podcasting. We've been covering that Punisher, Netflix's Punisher over on the MCU cast. So I recorded that earlier, and now time for some Star Trek. And I had a lot of fun watching this episode.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. I was just last week was so good that there was just a lot of excitement in the air for me about the next episode. And again, I think this episode felt a little more, well, I don't know. This episode felt weird to me. Not bad, but weird. The whole Klingon princess love story.
Yeah, the Klingon soap opera.
Yeah, it felt like that's exactly what it was.
Not even like a real soap opera, like a Spanish soap opera.
We've just
where it's like L'Rell is like the kid with like the orange wig from Arrested Development, who's like 35.
Yeah, I think this episode would have been way better for me, or at least more comfortable for me, if L'Rell had been wearing anything else.
Okay, you know what really confused me about L'Rell is they clearly changed her makeup from last year. She more closely resembles TNG Klingons now.
I didn't think they changed her makeup much except for the hair. But I'm bad at noticing that kind of stuff.
I'd say look to the nose, but I haven't looked at a comparison.
Right. She still, to me, did not look like a TNG Klingon. But we got to remember, the Klingons soon have to do some genetic manipulation that will lead them to look completely different for a few years and then change back. So I don't mind that they look a little different in this era.
No, that's not true.
Really?
No, because the original series Klingons were explained in Enterprise.
Right.
They tried to make themselves look like, or they tried to make themselves augmented like Soong's augments, and it made them weaker, and it had the opposite effect on them, and they were weaker and they looked like humans. And it became a virus. It mutated and spread throughout the
so that should have happened between that should have already happened.
Yeah, these Klingons are weird. Right. I don't know what's going on here.
You're right. It doesn't make any sense that they don't look like original series Klingons. That's a bummer. I was thinking it didn't make sense that they didn't look like TNG Klingons, but you're right. Now, they definitely don't look like original series Klingons.
Yeah, and it wasn't that they were necessarily automatically, the virus wasn't spreading to everywhere. It was just to a certain
population or whatever.
Population of Klingons. But that still doesn't explain Discovery Klingons at all. But then we've never got an explanation for why Worf looks completely different in season 1 than he does in season 7.
Right, that's what I was about to say about you talked about her makeup change again. Even if her makeup changes, it's not like we don't have a history of that happening.
Oh, we absolutely do. Absolutely.
It's makeup, it changes, it's fine. I honestly, most visual things on the show I can mostly forgive. It's more like the character things that bother me.
Okay.
When characters don't make sense or do things or say things that didn't happen or happen differently. I watched a video today just because I'm a glutton for punishment on it. It was like everything wrong with Discovery, every continuity error in Discovery, and some of them were not continuity errors, and so I was like, that made me feel better about the show, that people were just nitpicking it, but then some of them were just so glaring. And tonight, one of the ones that really bothered me, and it was from tonight's episode, is it's one thing if you have, like we know in DS9, they talk about the creation of the holographic communications, but the actual wording is, these are the new holographic communications. So it could be said that they're just better. They've gotten better over time. But tonight, a character said to another character, "You're the only guy I know in the quadrant who still talks on screens."
Yeah.
I was like, that's some BS. That's some like serious canon error BS.
You need to just come over to my side, man. This shit ain't Prime. Just enjoy it for the alternate reality it is.
If it's not Prime, I have a really hard time just caring.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, man. It's all fiction.
I mean, I can care about the characters, but like, I just like a canon. I like a canon. Like, the reason I'm driven to watch the next Star Trek series, like Star Trek itself, I like it for a lot of reasons, but it's been in so many different incarnations that if they're not holding on to the canon, I don't really feel compelled to care about every Star Trek series. It's just like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I also love because of its expansive canon. If it bothers me that they don't connect it more. But if they were when they blatantly disregard canon, it bothers me. Recently in Runaways, the show Runaways, which they have not technically said is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet.
Yeah,
canon is such a big deal to me. But we've just been picking up from context clues whether it is or not. But on a recent episode, they meet a group of aliens. And they were like, and they basically talk about how it's the first alien contact with humans. And I was like, what about the Battle of New York? What about the Chitauri invasion? and I officially just deemed it's no longer Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, there's not a chance.
Yeah. Well, look, I think Star Trek Discovery is canon in so much as the high-level multiverse function.
Sure.
Otherwise, I mean, I don't think it's in the Prime universe. It's just not.
Yeah, sure, you can say that, but then you've got things like the interactions between the Mirror Universe and the Prime universe. So I guess you're saying it's an alternate Mirror Universe and an alternate Prime universe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you go by the real world Everett Wheeler theory of the multi-universe, everything is 100% probable, right? So
yeah, I don't buy that.
Well, I mean, whether you buy it or not, I mean, that's an actual scientific theory. Star Trek is science fiction based, and a lot of it is based on theories, and that was based on a scientific theory.
Even if the multiverse theory is true, I don't believe the 100% probable all universes exist thing, because it becomes too ridiculous. There's so many universes where there would be so many universes where such a random thing happened to cause a random set of circumstances. You get to the point of where you're just straining incredulity.
Well, yeah, and maybe it's not a good idea for you to go back and watch old Star Trek. Because I think you'll find more ridiculous things than there being multiple mirror universes.
No. I don't think it's a problem that there's multiple mirror universes, or that they interact that way. That doesn't really bother me. What I'm talking about is stuff like Rick and Morty, where you have a chair universe.
Oh, yeah.
If all things are 100% probable, that's the kind of stuff you get to. And it's no, that's not the case. You have to still work within the laws that govern the universe.
I think that is what they did on Rick and Morty was the obvious, taking that concept to the ultimate extreme.
Sure.
the most absurd extreme. But yeah, I mean, we've seen several universes within the Star Trek universe on Next Generation, just in the episode Parallels, where you can see so many different variations of just, the normal quote unquote prime timeline, that I have no reason to believe that there isn't like an equal mirror universe for every one of those.
Right. Sure. Yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely possible. I just don't find myself caring. If we're not going to follow the rules of canon, I don't have nearly as much of a motivation to watch Star Trek. Like new Star Trek, I have to be reconvinced each series. It's just like when you have a new Batman or a new Superman or a new whatever, whenever the Marvel stuff starts getting rebooted, when they do have the new X-Men, you have to convince me to care about these new characters and the cool thing about a canon is you have this built up like credit where you're like, I know things about the characters in this universe. If you're telling me this Spock has nothing to do with the other Spock, then why do I really care? That's how I feel about canon. I understand that's not how everyone feels. I understand there's all kinds of Elseworld Batman comics where like, you're like, hey, this random thing happened to Batman and now he's like a knight in the whatever, in Arthur's kingdom or whatever. And it's like, hey, that's an interesting Batman story. It's still kind of Batman. But to me, that is a harder sell. It's just a harder sell. Like I have to be retaught why I care about this particular Batman. What is his backstory? One of the biggest problems with a lot of the canons they do these days is just like they rely on your love of Batman or your love of Spider-Man or like from all these other universes that have come before, and then they present you with a new character and they're like, hey, you remember how much you like Spider-Man? Here's the new Spider-Man. We're not going to give you reason to care about this one. But he is Spider-Man, so you should just care. And I think that every time you create a new universe, you don't have to tell me the origin story again, but you have to give me those save the cat moments, and you have to give me the reasons to care about this character because he's a different character. So if you're going to give me a new Spock, you have to intrigue me with a new Spock. Like why am I on this Spock side? Because he's a different Spock.
And do you believe that they are not giving you a reason to care about the Spock?
Well, so far we don't know who Spock is.
I mean, they're building up a lot about his childhood. Sounds like a freaking origin story to me.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this show is doing a bad job of it. I'm talking about why I believe in holding on to canon.
Yeah, I get it.
Why I'm not interested in shows that are just like blatantly outside of canon. Unless they can hook me, and this show has done that, and I'm fine with it. If it's in a different canon, so be it. I'm just talking about the concepts of canon, which we try to avoid on this show, but we're doing it anyway. Sorry.
They're, of course, claiming it is Prime Universe. I don't buy it yet.
Right. What'd you think of that D7 Cruiser?
D7 Cruiser made me happy inside.
Yeah, I thought it would, and it made me happy. The Klingon Empire is starting to look like the Klingon Empire.
Yeah, I like the way they used the D7 as a way of uniting the houses. That was cool.
Yeah, it was. And it gives a lot of explanation for why all these, it really did explain why all these Klingons had different ships. And with the hair, especially with some of these mustaches that are clear homages to old Klingon, stuff from the original series, and Next Generation, like they're clearly trying to correct some of those mistakes.
So hey, how would you like for me to give the summary?
Oh yeah, that'd be good. We really haven't talked about the episode much. We're pretty much just talked about our issues with canon. So this has been your Canon Minute. Give us that summary, Dave.
Feel free to write in and ask us to stop giving the Canon Minute.
And then I think we should have like a sound effect of a cannon going off. This has been your Canon Minute.
Do you remember did you ever see the deleted scene from How It Should Have Ended? It's a great series on YouTube. You should check it out, all of you, if you haven't seen it. How It Should Have Ended. They did a quote-unquote deleted scene for the J.J. Abrams Star Trek film, the 2009 film, and they're getting sucked into the black hole at the end. And Kirk says, just as ridiculously as he did in the movie, says, just like, unload everything, and Scotty's just throwing everything out into the void. And Scotty goes, even the cannon? Especially the cannon. And he literally has a giant cannon with a Starfleet symbol on it that he throws out.
That is very funny.
Anyway, point of light. A surprise visitor to the USS Discovery brings shocking news about Spock and dredges up past regrets for Burnham. Following the asteroid incident, Tilly struggles to keep a grip on her reality, and L'Rell's authority on Qo'noS is threatened. That's surprisingly light for the amount of tea spilled in this episode.
The amount of tea?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I don't get it. Please explain.
It's like gossip, girl. You spilling tea. Spilled a tea, girl.
Nope, don't know that.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm ashamed I know it, but it's...
No, man, don't be. You're hipper than I. But no, yeah, this episode, I just really, I like that they're trying to bring the Klingon Empire back to a place where it resembles the Klingon Empire we know. But then they have this episode where you have this weird Klingon soap opera, and it did not feel at all like the Klingon Empire I know.
I feel like we've been given so many versions of the Klingon Empire. Like, we have, like, more of this sort of, like, seemingly Japanese-based Klingon Empire in TNG and DS9. But then, like, in the original series and the original series movies, they were just very clearly, like, very, like, Slavic, very, like, Russian-based, but it was just based on, like, original series up through most of those movies, but the Cold War was still going on. So, like, I feel like they just kind of altered it quite a bit. Like, you didn't watch the old movies and think about Klingons being honorable.
That's true. And maybe the thing is, like, L'Rell is trying to bring back the honor to her people, and I think that some of this, like, different acting Klingons, people being so treacherous, they're just acting downright Romulan.
Yeah. And then Star Trek 6, all of a sudden, they're all, like, British.
Oh, really?
You had David Warner playing Chancellor of the Klingon High Council. You had Christopher Plummer playing his right-hand man. Like, all of those Klingons were, speaking, talking as Shakespeare, like, have we not heard the chimes at midnight, Captain?
That was just somebody making a joke with the Universal Translator, though.
Oh, yeah, that's what that was.
But yeah, the whole thing, it really was. You calling it a soap opera, really, I don't know. It's her sweeping gown, too. Like, she's the first female chancellor. We don't know that. That's
sexist, man.
It's just, I'm saying they're talking sexist about her.
Yeah.
They're acting like she's a woman and she can't have this place of power. They talk about as long as she has Ash Tyler, they'll be thinking that you're doing his bidding.
Yeah.
So obviously her being a woman is an issue at this time period. Mm-hmm. So why, I don't know. I feel like she should dress like a warrior. Like, if she's like, if you're gonna be the leader of the Klingons, everyone is dressed like a warrior, and she's wearing like a sweeping gown. I kind of felt like that admiral that don't wear your pajamas on the bridge, Admiral
Jellicoe. That was the captain, also.
Oh, okay.
Chain of command.
I kind of feel like there needed to be a Klingon saying that to her.
I mean, she's a strong, empowered woman. She can wear whatever the hell she wants.
Sure. But we've never seen another Klingon wear anything like that, and it just felt...
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've seen Klingon women wear gowns before. DS9, Day of the Dove.
Sure. I just think of like the Duras sisters, women in power, and they're wearing like Klingon warrior outfits, you know?
They were still dresses.
They did have dresses from sometimes, but a lot of times they were wearing like straight up Klingon warrior outfits.
I'll go get the action figure right now.
She's the chancellor. She's the chancellor. She should, I don't know. She just
you will not address her as chancellor. She will have a more fearsome name. You will call her mother.
I really wish, instead of her saying mother, that it had her use the Klingon word for mother and put mother on the bottom of the screen. That would have been more impactful for me.
Yeah, but they already did that cool thing where they like went from her speaking Klingon and then they switched the subtitles to Klingon and had her. We were just hearing it in our tongue, and she was saying it. But yeah, I mean, they'd already done that.
But they also have had throughout the episode, every once in a while, someone would say something, like they would be saying a sentence, and then they would choose not to translate one or two lines for whatever reason, for dramatic effect. And to me, I just kind of thought it would be more dramatic. I don't know what the Klingon word for mother is, but I would have liked the Klingon word for mother, because it just would have seemed a little more badass, I guess. I don't know. Fierce, as she said. I
was fine with it the way it was.
Sure. But yeah, this one felt a little weird to me, but I did like it. I liked all the Tilly stuff. You were darn right about that green speck.
Right?
Yeah, man. And it's some sort of life form. The whole life form at the end was weird.
Multi-dimensional spore bacteria thing all up in Tilly's chest. That was creepy.
Yeah, it was. But it does seem to need help. And it needed Stamets' help specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to the bottom of that quickly. That character was getting on my nerves.
So do you think that you're right about that? Do you think I'm right about this? These dead people are the mycelium network talking to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we basically called this whole season. I loved Ash Tyler joining Section 31.
That was fun.
Or not officially, but I mean, the idea of him being in Section 31, being on the Section 31 show, like, I like him as a character. I've liked him since the moment I met him. Since I found out he was Vogue, I've been even more interested. And like, just the idea of a Section 31 operative that is operating with full knowledge of a Klingon life. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And like a love affair with the Klingon chancellor mother. Yeah, I should say.
It might be interesting to see how they push that relationship forward, which they can't. They can't. He's got to be with Section 31.
Yeah, but still, he still has that connection. You saw Georgiou show up with like a special holographic mask on, so like he could easily go back to Qo'noS and like meet with L'Rell at some point. If like there's some sort of like 4 years from now, we're in like the 3rd season of a Section 31 show, and he needs to like call in a favor, you know, or like stop the Klingons from doing something. He could finally like leverage his relationship with L'Rell, you know.
I'm not sure. It would be interesting to see, but just because, he's committed to her, but, every time she touches him, it feels like a violation, like he said.
Yeah.
But I thought it seemed pretty clear that he was not to be around her at this point. Like, she can't have any weakness like that in her life.
Well, no, I don't think that was not L'Rell's choice, though. That was
that was Georgiou. Yeah.
If it was necessary for the mission, particularly to help whatever Section 31's mission is in the future, they might ask him to leverage his relationship, and he might push back on that, but then might eventually give in, and then you get and it was actually, that's the thing. L'Rell had chosen to have that weakness, you know. And she had, and Vogue or Ash Tyler had chosen to embrace the side of him that was Voq and love her. Even though, and you saw that one moment they held each other, and he said, you know, I'm going to choose to love you, and the other stuff will come. Mm-hmm. So they had really, it was a sweet moment, and it was immediately taken from them.
Yeah.
By Georgiou.
Absolutely. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with that.
Yeah, me either.
Well, you know what I think, though?
What's that?
I think it's very interesting. The son of L'Rell and Voq. They didn't. He's albino like Voq. He doesn't have a name, just like the albino. You remember?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, okay. Episode of DS9.
Oh, wow.
Blood Oath. The albino was this like infamous criminal who was running around killing people. He had raids against Klingon colonies, even in the late 23rd century. All right.
Yeah, which that timing lines up because we know that people from Kirk's time that fought Kirk are still around in DS9. So,
you know, if by the late 23rd century, i.e. the movies, he would have been in his, 20s, 30s, maybe, he would have be about 100 years old, which is what production said on DS9. That's what I was looking up before the show. Like, because I was thinking, like, that albino kid is probably their son.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And, Kor, Kang, and Koloth, the 3 original captains from the original series, and Jadzia, are after him because he promised revenge upon them and killed all of their firstborn sons. Also, He was if it's him, he was a firstborn son of L'Rell.
Yeah. And only born son, she says.
And only born son, yeah, absolutely.
Besides all Klingons. You
know, some people claim that he's not Klingon because it was never said he was a Klingon, but he looks pretty Klingon. Except he's, obviously an albino. But the other thing is he talks a lot about how he hates Klingons. He calls them filth and scum and whatnot. But he would if he hated the Klingons for pushing him aside for being albino. An interesting thing about this real quick. I'm sorry. The episode is called Point of Light. And they sent that child to Boreth. All right. And that is where Worf went. Seeking the monks of Boreth and TNG's rightful heir. He was seeking them for spiritual guidance. All right. So, and the Point of Light is where Kahless said, he pointed to a star and said, look for me there on that point of light. And that was Boreth. And that's where that monastery was that they sent the kid to, where Worf went to seek the monks of Boreth.
That's awesome.
No real connection that I can remember with the albino, but there might be a story there.
Yeah, for sure.
But they were very obviously pointing out from TNG, hey, this is the point of light that we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's some deep Klingon lore there. I like it.
Yeah.
Good catch there. I did not remember. I do now that you mentioned the albino and DS9. I'm like, I definitely remember the episode, and I'm vaguely remembering them calling him the albino. Did we ever actually see him in that episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the big battle at the end. That episode is very fuzzy.
Yeah, I was proud of myself because this is a brand new episode. There's nothing as far as trivia goes, and I'm sitting there going like, Boreth, I know Boreth. Wait a minute, the albino.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good job. Good job.
I mean, I did look it all up, but
you should make a YouTube video of that.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
You should. You caught a cool canon connection.
You go over to YouTube and it's just going to be people going, Discovery's not canon. Bleh. I'm like, I know. Shut up.
Well, I thought it was a pretty cool episode. Let's see. What other... We really hadn't talked about the Spock storyline at all.
No, we haven't.
So the Red Angel is real. Spock has encountered it his whole life, it seems.
It's real in his mind. Sorry, that's a DS9 reference, guys.
Yeah, that's right. We should let people know when we're making weird DS9, very small DS9 references.
Yeah, I think the episode was Far Beyond the Stars.
I can't remember. No, it was Benny.
Yeah.
Good old Benny. Great episode. You guys should all watch DS9. It's the best Star Trek. If you haven't heard our previous episodes on our favorite Star Treks. Let's see. What were we talking about with Spock?
Well, he's seeing shit. He's seeing angels, and has been since he was a kid.
Yeah.
The angel told him where Michael was.
What did she do to him?
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't know what you could do. I just don't even know, man. I'm sure we'll find out, because they definitely established that as a mystery.
Yeah. Which, by the way, they stuck a canon there. She was outside of Shakar, which was a major city in Vulcan. It was first mentioned in the animated series.
Wow.
That's where Spock and his parents lived.
It seems like they're really trying to stick to canon this season. It's like they didn't think about it in the first season. Like, we'll just make some small modifications. No one will mind. And they're like, oh, Star Trek fans care about that. Like, how did they not know?
I honestly don't know what happened, and I hope that there's a reconciliation, that something is explained, but I think part of what happened was there was a struggle. I think Brian Fuller wanted to stay. Well, Brian Fuller, up until Discovery, they started talking about Discovery, had been saying over and over again he wanted to make a show in the Kelvin timeline.
Okay.
And then there is a general consensus among people who follow such things that the marketing people and everyone at CBS was like, prime timeline sells. There's a reason there hasn't been any real toys or merchandise or anything from the Kelvin universe after the first movie, because it did not sell. Now, the real reason is because it looked like shit.
Right.
All of those action figures, I did not buy those action figures. They looked awful. They looked worse than G.I. Joe in the 70s did. Well, not the 70s. That's not fair. Those were kind of cool. The ones in the 90s.
Right.
They just looked really bad. No one looked like themselves. It was just real weird and bad. And that's why that didn't sell. That's why I didn't buy it. That's how I know. So, yeah, I think that was a big problem. But I bought the ship. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, I remember your ship sitting on our shelf. Back in the day.
So there's an idea that Prime sells, and some people are claiming that Fuller wanted to do proper old school timeline for this show, that he wanted it to look like the original series, that he was really pushing for that, and that other people at the network, that there was a big power struggle and they wanted it to look like way newer. Other people say the opposite. Or that, CBS wouldn't have cared, I don't think, honestly. But, who knows? Who knows what's happening? And I don't know what Alex Kurtzman is doing. I really don't.
Yeah. I don't either. I think they learned their lesson. I don't know why they didn't already know that lesson, but it does seem like they have learned it.
I feel like Rick Berman is sitting somewhere remembering how fans wrote letters telling him that he shot the wrong, the phaser out of the photon torpedo bay, and how he was a shitty showrunner because he didn't know that. He's somewhere stroking a cat going, "You dumb bastards."
Yeah. It's as if they were like, well, it's been off the air for 20 years. No one's still paying attention. We'll make whatever we want and just call it Star Trek and they'll buy it. And they were right.
I mean, there are a lot of people that haven't.
Oh yeah. No, I know. They were right to some degree. Most people did at least tune in. But they're not going to keep tuning in if you don't, give them something that resembles what they were there for,
I think it resembles it just fine. It does not look like what it should look like as far as the canon we grew up with. But
that D7 really did make me think that maybe they're heading towards something. Maybe they really are going to try to resolve things.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like a Donnie Darko situation, and the Red Angel is like Frank the Bunny, and he's trying to warn them that this is a pocket universe.
It could be. It could be. I'm more and more interested in what the Red Angel is. Like, again, that whole plotline this episode really did resonate for me, and I enjoyed the Tilly stuff, and I enjoyed the Burnham stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about where Ash Tyler ended up, and Section 31. So, Section 31 just seems like a bit of an open secret, or like just an open project that they have going on at this time, I guess.
Yeah, it feels like it's like Area 51 or something. It's like if we were all in the military and some asshole walked up with like a black badge or something, like, oh, Area 51, yeah, all right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like what it's supposed to be in 300 years or whatever. 200 years? 100 years? I don't know how long it is until DS9.
Yeah, about 100 years, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it does not feel like what it was described to us, but I really want to go back and rewatch all the Section 31 episodes to try to remember, because I can't remember if they say that. I remember it started as an official thing and then moved underground. So maybe at this point it's still official.
Well, it was an underground thing in Enterprise.
That's right. That's right. So, I don't know why everyone knows about Section 31. That's kind of bothering me.
I mean, the way Ash addressed it here, it felt like it was just like, I've never seen anyone from Section 31. I've heard of black badges, but I've never seen one.
Right, but he also said Section 31 as if it was just like, to me, Section 31 was like the Men in Black of Star Trek. In their original inception in DS9. And this, it seemed like they were just an elite unit or whatever.
But yeah, but Section 31 could be a thing in the Star Trek universe, like, the Illuminati are for us, just something wackadoos on YouTube talk about a lot.
Maybe.
It's just, like they're just on streams, like whatever the YouTube equivalent is in the Star Trek universe, people just talking about Section 31 did this. Okay, Section 31. Yeah, all right.
But you also have to look back at, they talk about the black, that's the thing that bothered me. She said the black badges thing, but then you look at the first episode of Discovery, they're wearing black badges in the hallway. So was those Section 31 members guarding the spore drive or whatever?
Maybe.
We just, did everyone have black badges, or there were just certain officers that had black badges in that first episode?
I just remember there being people. I don't even know that they were necessarily guarding the spore drive. It could have been one of the other 300 bullshit things happening on the ship. I remember
they passed two guards in the hallway that are wearing black badges, and Burnham has like a knowing look that I guess she might have recognized them as Section 31 officers.
And then you hear one of the criminals go, "Black badges? What kind of ship has black badges?"
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's not. And
I suspect Discovery started out as a Section 31 ship anyway, or a top secret ship, which would have been in line with Section 31 because the registry is 1031.
Right. Yeah, I think that was definitely a big thing that people were pushing, a theory that was being pushed early on.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, you want to get into quotes?
Did you want to talk about any at all about Amanda blaming herself for Spock's problems about not giving affection to Spock and giving it all to Michael? Because I really liked all that.
Yeah, for sure. That was a really emotional scene. It was emotional for Burnham, and then, like, in a way, Amanda's reaction to Burnham telling her that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because it's like Amanda has been absolved, but she realized she's kind of been carrying this guilt for how she treated Spock all her life, and it was really that Burnham had never told her the truth, and so she's been carrying guilt for something Burnham did, and then she kisses her and then walks away really stoically, and it really made me just so sad.
Yeah, absolutely. What made me sad also, and I think they did a really nice job with it when Ash Tyler is talking to Burnham through a hologram. We see him as the hologram, and then as they're talking, like, it's just like the room is cut in half. Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool touch.
That was a nice little touch, and that was kind of painful because it was pretty clear that where both of their hearts were.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it looks like we're probably going to get him bumping into her this season, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen him on the bridge of the ship in trailers, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I didn't know if that was the ship. By the way, that Section 31 ship looks like a TARDIS.
Really? Because I thought it looked like a rearranged Shinjo.
Really? I don't see that. You mean the outside of the ship?
No, I mean I specifically mean the bridge.
Oh, really? See, I thought the bridge, or at least that room that I guess was the bridge. It's like to me, it looked so much like a TARDIS. There's just like, it's a big circular room with like railing or scaffolding all around. And like the way that, the transporter in the center of the room, it just all looked like a TARDIS to me. Like a different skin, like the new skin for the TARDIS.
Okay, I can see that. One more thing before quotes for me.
Yeah.
Do you think it was inside of all in Tilly's mind, or did Tilly really hang back for 30 seconds and then somehow catch up to all those people?
I think that actually happened, and I thought it was stupid. It wasn't 30 seconds.
Do you think the spore were helping her?
No, I think it was just a poorly thought out scene.
Fair enough.
I just think it was like, if you wait that long, you're not winning. I'm sorry. With everyone else that's trying to win. Like, maybe if everyone else was just running at normal pace for like jogging, but they were like competing. And then she stopped for like, it wasn't 30, but it was at least 10 or 15 seconds. Okay, so maybe, especially for her to beat her best time ever. That was the other thing. She not only beat them, but she got her best time. It's like, you don't stop in the middle of a race for 15 seconds and then get your best time.
Yeah.
It also depends on the distance of the race, maybe. Like, maybe if she was more driven to run than she'd ever been, and the race was a lot longer than it seemed, like, it's possible that happened. But yeah, again, it's nitpicky, but yeah, that bothered me.
I just wondered if I felt like it may have been in her mind, and if it wasn't, that maybe what's her face made her faster, because she seemed really super out of breath at the end of that.
I think that's all giving it too much credit.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Sorry. One more thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was ridiculous that Amanda stole that file, and then they were like, "We're missing some files." Why the hell don't you just have that on a hard drive somewhere? Like, it's in the computer. Like,
right? That's real dumb. Good point. That is a really good point. Here's my headcanon.
Okay.
Because I love a good headcanon. It is possible that you'd have to have not keep the files on a centralized server because they're sensitive, and like these days we have HIPAA that keeps you from like sharing files, and maybe it was like decentralized and off the network because maybe patient files aren't kept on the network. Because of it, they could be hacked and all the patient's data stolen.
Sure. Okay.
That's my headcanon.
I mean, the original series had tapes. They had things, like actual, like, big blocky looking multicolored tapes.
Sure.
And there were files. Okay.
Oh man, I got looking at next week's the clip from next week, they showed someone getting off a transporter just looking very much like they were in the original series outfit. It wasn't exact, but, it was a lot closer. That yellow, the gold, like command gold or whatever. Mm-hmm. It looked cool.
Nice. I saw the teaser for next week, but I didn't really pay attention to that.
Yeah, I think it may have been even the same thing that Pike was wearing in the first episode, but it just looked cool. There's just a shot of a woman getting off the transporter.
Oh, probably number one.
Oh, is she coming in?
Yeah, it's played by Rebecca Romaine.
Oh, wow. Neat. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You want to get to quotes?
Sure.
I've only got like one, so you go first.
You didn't betray your friend. And then Pike says, easy to say, or whatever. Like, I really liked that. I liked that Pike was felt so shitty for reporting to Starfleet what was going on with Spock.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Probably that same conversation. I really liked when he said, I couldn't do that. I would be breaking the rules, and my mother wouldn't like that.
Yeah, that was good. I really loved when most of mine are from Pike. I love what he told Tilly, how about we marry some people, and even if they're really not into each other.
Yeah, it was good. I had in that shortly after that first quote I had, this actually I think was kind of a meta joke. When she says, was she always this bossy? And then she says, on Vulcan we call it persistent, and she learned that from me. Mm-hmm. I don't, there's a big thing about calling girls bossy. In today's world. Because when a man is bossy, he's generally just called assertive or persistent or whatever. But they call women bossy, and it's a way of sort of a sexist thing. And so I thought that was a direct call out to that. Like, he says, has she always been this bossy? And he's like, on Vulcan, like on our much more logical planet of Vulcan, we call that persistent, you sexist asshole.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it anyway.
I didn't know bossy was a thing like that because, my mom always said if I was being that way, she always called me bossy. So I never really thought about.
Yeah, I don't really. Obviously, there are people that call men bossy. I do understand that there are. I think it's more of a work environment thing than anything. Like, because you don't often see women being rewarded in those cases for their assertiveness.
Right.
They're like looked sharply upon for that. And in the house, especially talking to your kids, you might call a kid bossy. But that's the thing. It's like your mom calls you bossy, but in a work environment, it's somehow like okay for coworkers to call a woman bossy. It feels a little, it's like infantilizing a little bit. Yeah,
I agree. But, I just hadn't thought about the word bossy until recently.
Me neither, until I like read that book or whatever. It's Lean In, I think.
I thought the phrase on Vulcan is called persistence was a reference to nevertheless she persisted. That was the Senator Elizabeth Warren thing.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know that.
Yeah, it's a big expression that the feminist movement kind of grabbed onto.
Okay. See, I don't even know that phrase.
Yeah, I honestly only know it because they called an episode of Supergirl that. Nevertheless, she persisted, and that's... Yeah.
I will have to look into that cultural thing that I don't know about.
It's a rabbit hole, but yeah, it's there.
Sure. That's the internet for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Any other quotes?
Yes, I loved Laurel. Be sure to kill us both. The one left standing will be the one coming for you.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't write that one down. That is a great quote.
Yep, that was a great quote.
Really, really great quote.
Oh, my favorite of the episode. Giorgio, children are parasites, ungrateful inconveniences.
She is funny. She is reminding me of Anya from Buffy.
I can see that.
Like any of those of you who don't know, if you haven't watched the show Buffy, it's great. You should. But on Buffy, there was a character who used to be a demon, and then she comes to our world, and she has to sort of fit in, but she still just says things that are just wildly inappropriate, and like she just views things in a very a demonish way. And so that's Giorgio for me. She's like from the mirror universe. She's the dark picture of Giorgio, but she now has to like live in this world, but she's still just saying these like really mean, awful things. I love it. Well, really fun, man. Thanks for doing the episode. This was a lot of fun. I am so excited to be talking New Trek.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, once we get into the idea that it actually is Star Trek and it actually has weight because it's in some way canon.
Yeah. And, you know, like, obviously I like shows that aren't Star Trek. Like, it's not... It's not like something has to be Star Trek for me to like it, or be in that canon for me to like it.
Hey, Matt, you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine? No, it's not. If it's not canon in Star Trek universe, I just don't feel like it has stakes or weight.
It's just that you have to reconvince me that it's worth watching, and especially the first season of this show. The first half of the first season of the show did not convince me of that. You know, I liked a couple of the characters, but it took them a while to find their footing, which is not to say that a show can't do that, because every Star Trek series, I think, has done that. If they ever found their footing.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What do you think the likelihood is that we're going to see Sybok this season?
Good question. I would say low.
I would say low, except for that we're dealing with Spock. We're dealing with a spiritual matter. You know, as far as the Red Angel, we're talking about faith versus science. We're talking about siblings that, you know, are disconnected. How the hell do they not bring Sybok in?
Right. I agree. The themes are very similar, but and I to be honest, I don't remember what the history of Sybok and Spock were in Star Trek V.
Sybok is a full Vulcan. Spock's older brother, Sybok's mother was a Vulcan princess. He rejected the teachings of Surak. He rejected logic, and felt like the path to enlightenment was emotions, and became obsessed with the god of Shakari. He was constantly searching for God.
Sure. So in that story, did they grow up together?
There is a line, like, he obviously knew Spock, and Spock knew him in Star Trek V, and I can't remember the exact line, but there is a line where Spock says, I am not the troubled boy you left behind. Something like that.
So I wonder if Sybok left before Burnham came. Does Burnham know Sybok? You know, all that stuff. So they haven't had much of it. So it sounds like to me, if that's the case, I am not the troubled boy you left behind. It sounds like they haven't had much relationship since he was a boy. So to me, that sounds like they haven't seen each other since then, unless we could get Burnham, you know, coming across Sybok. Or this could be the troubled boy. Like Spock in a mental institution could be the last time he saw Sybok.
Yeah, that is something I considered. But, you know, also, if you think about it, you know, I've seen my sister, you know, both of my sisters, more times than I can count in the last, you know, 10, 15 years, but I still think of them in a lot of ways as little kids.
The troubled girls you left behind.
Yeah. So, you know, and as siblings, I don't know about your family. I don't know how it works with you guys, but in my family, like every once in a while, it's good to be like, by the way, I'm not who the hell I was when I was 17.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like that would be a way of Spock saying that without being literal. Or it could, or, you know, you could do as many Star Trek fans do and just ignore Star Trek 5 altogether. But I like Star Trek 5. It's a flawed movie, very flawed movie, but I like a lot of the themes. I see a lot of the same themes here. So.
For sure.
And I like the character of Cyborg. Lux and Bill did a fantastic job, and he's shit on very, very, undeservedly for that cluster of a movie. But.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we are the Star Trek Universe Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week with more Discovery. And who knows? Maybe we'll drop an episode in between. We hadn't really talked about this week's plan yet.
Yeah, I will say, we need to get to some news and feedback because stuff is happening. Yeah,
man. Let's do it. I should be able to drop an episode this week, another episode this week. Finally getting a little freed up from a busy, this week we were late getting our Discovery review because I was on tour. I haven't really talked about much on this show, but I'm a musician, so every once in a while I'm out on tour, and I went and played in Little Rock, Arkansas last week, and it was a lot of fun. It's
like Commander Riker blowing his horn and shit, you know?
Yeah, man. Gotta blow my horn. I was out blowing my horn, you guys.
Oh, I would be remiss not to mention this. When Giorgio puts that dude in the bubble, L'Oreal's uncle in the bubble, and then stabs him, my wife goes, well, I guess she burst his bubble. She was very pleased with herself. It was pretty funny.
That is great. That is really funny. There's a meme going on the internet that apparently somebody got arrested up in Chicago because they dressed up in full cosplay of Mr. Freeze and then walked around yelling bad cold puns at people. You know, because Chicago's in the middle of this crazy storm. And then I don't know how he got arrested for that. Apparently he got arrested. I don't know if he just I kept acting belligerent when they came. We're like, hey, you can't carry around a big, even if it's fake, you can't carry around a big ice gun and threaten people. And then he might have just kept screaming puns at the cops. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to read more on that story.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so, what was, sorry, I interrupted you. What was the rest of your, we couldn't do our Discovery episode because you were too busy pursuing your dreams bullshit?
Oh yeah, it was all bullshit. Don't worry about it. But
I'm just kidding, man.
This week we'll be on doing our Discovery next week, and we might drop something Monday. Maybe we'll do a news and feedback Monday. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds tasty.
Yeah, it does. Let's do that. All right, guys. Peace.
Live long and prosper.
To reach out to us, hit us up at StarTrekUcast.com, at StarTrekUcast on Twitter, Star Trek Universe Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for us there, or send us a message at StarTrekUcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv. And if you want to hear more from Matthew Carroll, that's me, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, or go listen to my music at MatthewCarrollmusic.com or anywhere you get music.